Major! Hi, hello, welcome in. Rad, also, hi, hello, welcome in. Don't worry, we're not ending just because you got here again. You actually made it on time. I was actually a little late from when I wanted to start streaming, but hey, it happens. Okay, I think I got everything ready and set up. Um, yeah, I don't know. We'll figure it out if there's anything. Yes, Major is always right. Alright, so today we're going to do our movie puzzle and then move on to finishing out. We have two more of our writing prompts that we want to get a better idea of what they might be as movies and kind of themes that they might um, be good vehicles for. Then. Apparently, Rad changed my bot's name to his own. Uh, but he didn't give himself permission to post a link. Um, so once we get those two, it must just be a visual glitch. Yeah. Once we get those two, we'll go back through all of them real quick just to review, and then hopefully we can pick one that we want to start actually writing with, that we're going to move forward with, and we will start kind of figuring stuff out with it. Who the protagonist, antagonist is, all that fun stuff. So that's the plan for today. I don't know. Hopefully some of that happens. If not, okay. Alright, let's get into it. Let's start up our puzzle. Ooh, got a long one today. Alright, Picard. Patrick Stewart. We all know. Tropic Thunder. Ooh. I think it's Jack Black based on the name length. Shrek 2. Oh, it does that sometimes. Like, it'll remove letters when you go to, yeah, whatever. Um, unless it's silent like pterodactyl. Yeah, exactly. Um, let's see. Mike Myers, Cameron Diaz, Eddie Murphy, John Lithgow, Antonio Banderas. Was Puss in Boots in the second Shrek? It fits. We'll give it a shot. Sage! Hi, hello, welcome in. We're doing your favorite puzzle. Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol. Oof. We're going streaking! Yes, I've streamed 3 times this year. Thank you for stopping by in all of them, Rad and Major. And Sage has been in all of them too. Even though last time she left us because she had like a hot date or something. Well, I hope it went well for you, Sage. Um, Jeremy Irons. Okay, I know who it is. Nice. I'm glad it went well. Nice. Yeah. No. Oh. It's Bill Nye. And this should be Rachel McAdams? Okay. Fill in some of these because I know what they're going to be. Alright, so the quote, "You had me at hello." Major got it. Well done. Oh, okay, so there's Renee Zellweger. I'm not even going to try with the rest of that. Let's see, Quantum of Solace. Zellweger. Okay. See, I already know what the answer is, so I kind of am... Whatever. Okay. Titanic. So this will be probably Billy Zane. And we can kind of cheat because we know what it's going to end up being, so we know certain letters in this. Pearl Harbor 2001. Oh, it's probably Kate Beckinsale. So it's not Daniel Craig, it's not Judi Dench. I don't think Mads Mikkelsen was actually in the second one. Jeffrey Wright? We'll go with that. It fits. Ex Machina. There were 3 people in that movie. And only one of them starts with O. Is it Oscar Isaacs? AAC? AAC. Okay. Sage said C. Major says AAC. So. How much time do we have? 2.5 minutes. Alright, I just want to make sure we don't run out of time. Only one C. Yeah. So you're both right. ABC. Yes, Rad. Ocean's 11. But it has the... Yeah, Andy Garcia. That makes sense. Magnolia. That had a lot of people in it. Wait, am I thinking of the right movie? Magnolia is the Paul Thomas Anderson movie with Tom Cruise, right? I don't know. We'll figure it out. We already know what it is, and we're down to a minute left. Boom. Major got it right. Alright, so for Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol, we had Michelle Monaghan. That's actually a deeper cut than they usually do with these. Oscar winner for 1981 was Henry Fonda. That's pretty late in his career. I'm thinking that might have been for On Golden Pond. I have not seen that movie, but my dad told me I should watch it. Les Mis was Eddie Redmayne. Kind of forgot he was in that until this showed us. I can't spell Jeffrey still. That's fine. I've never heard of this person. Oscar winner for 1981. John Gielgud? Okay, Julianne Moore for Magnolia. That makes sense. She's been in some other Paul Thomas Anderson movies. And then Christopher Walken for 1978 Oscar winner. So I'm guessing that's for Deer Hunter? Because I think that was around that time. That's my guess. So, but we got it. We won. Played 3 times. Won 3 times. Because I don't play it every day, we're only on one streak, which is fine. We know we're really on a 3 streak because we're 3 for 3. Alright, so we got that. We did our puzzle. God damn, my glasses are not clean. Give me a sec, I need to wipe them. Whenever I do my meal prep on Sundays and I'm cleaning up afterwards, I always make sure to clean my glasses too, because it makes sure I clean them at least once a week. And after doing meal prep, there might be like oil and stuff that splashes up. So I always try to clean them with soap and water, but sometimes drying them, they can get a little streaky. Everything's about streaks today. I was just like, but we can't even see your glasses, and I remembered why it would still be a problem if you couldn't see. Yeah, a little bit of problem if I can't see. Let's zoom this in a little bit. Alright, so we'll skip over the ones we've already done, because we can just come back to those after we've kind of done some work on the last two. I did think about both of these a bit between last stream and now, so I have kind of an idea for both of them. And the idea for both of them is fairly similar. Well, I think they can explore similar themes, but in different ways. So, this one, just to refresh, Due to your nerdy great-great-great-great-grandfather in 2017 buying a star and some modern legal shenanigans, you are now the proud owner of a small intergalactic empire. So, we started talking about this last time, but I think we were kind of exhausted by then. Um, but I started thinking about it at work the next day and over the weekend a little bit. And the theme I feel like this would explore most is being able to see others as people, for better or worse. So, there are a couple different interpersonal relationships. Mm, yeah, we'll say relationships. It's fine. Whatever. Going on here that in which we can explore kind of that theme of one might not be seeing others as necessarily a person, but putting them up on a pedestal, putting them below them, whatever it might be. So the main one is between the great 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 grandfather and the protagonist of this writing prompt. So they might be seeing their ancestor as one thing, but they would come to find out over the course of the story that they weren't that. Or they might have been different than they imagined, and they were just a person. So that's kind of one element of it. The other is if you're now in charge of an intergalactic empire, um, and you're put in a position of power, there's going to be power dynamics with all the other people in that empire. And so, naturally, there's going to be assumptions made, good or bad. And so, to me, all of it kind of reflects back on this idea of seeing others as people, not as ideals or as less than or anything else, but seeing them just as people. Reindeer are better than people. I'm not going to fight you on that. So that's kind of the idea I had for this. So I can write that in unless anyone else has kind of an idea or some other path they think this could go. See a reindeer and raise you wombats are better than reindeer. Nope. Nope. They poop cubes. You can make a poop igloo from your cubes. I have nothing for that. Poop igloo. Didn't think that was going to come up today. Your work here is done. Yep. Major, you can take the rest of the stream off, but you're not allowed to leave. Alright. And then our last one, you must be tired now. We should end stream and regroup again tomorrow. Oof. Well, I do have tomorrow off work, but I think we're just gonna be relaxing and stuff, and next stream will still most likely be Tuesday evening again. Even though, okay, sorry, I have to go off on a tangent. Um, Next week is our first week of instruction, so it's going to be the first time we have students back on campus for the semester. And one of the stupid things they're doing is they want everyone working on campus, so we're not allowed to work remote that week. So Monday's a holiday, which I would usually have to be in the office for, and then Tuesday I would have been able to work from home, so it would have been great. But because Tuesday is the start of students coming back on campus, I have to go in to the office that day, so I don't even get one less day in the office on a holiday week. Sucks. Yeah, so not happy about that, but have the day off tomorrow at least, so yeah, it is what it is. Okay. And then our last writing prompt, you discover a library with a biography for everyone on Earth. While reading your own, you notice that whenever someone else is mentioned, there's a footnote showing where you can find their biography. It's odd how someone who is only a sentence in your book has a whole chapter for you. So what I was talking about earlier, in that these two stories I feel like could explore a similar theme, is that this one also goes into being able to see other people as people, not just like, for lack of a better term, like characters in your story. By having, someone else who is just mentioned in your book have this whole incident, whatever it might be much bigger to them, and having the protagonist kind of learn their actions have consequences. They might not have treated this other person well, and they need to be able to treat others better. Does that make sense? Well, makes sure. Thanks, Rad. What if it was someone who was secretly in love with you instead of it being bad? Yeah, I mean, kind of either way, it's still about. Uh, that would kind of change what it's about. Just because you're a bad guy doesn't mean you're a bad guy. Like they were your barista, but to them you were a source of joy and light without ever really knowing it. Sorry, thinking through that. That might not be as interesting as I just, but oh yeah, there's no bad ideas in a brainstorm, except for some of the shit Rat says. Um, Yeah. Just checking if you're still here, Rad. Um, yeah, I mean, that's definitely a possibility. I'm just trying to think out kind of how that would turn into. um, how would we turn that into a movie and kind of what would going through that, what would our character learn through going through that? No, you left like 10 minutes ago. Rad just set up an AI bot to respond for him. Yeah, I mean, I think it's an interesting idea, Major. Um, hmm. Oh my god, wait. Okay, I'm waiting. Dang, what, Rad? Wait, I am waiting. Wait better. Okay, I'll try. Uh, what if their chapter is about your time with them, but you had an accident and lost your memory, so you don't remember them? Hmm. I guess the biography would have covered that, though. Never mind. What if they pooped cubes? Uh, um. Okay, so let's play out a bit of your initial idea of the more romance version of this. Um, so characters living their normal life, kind of oblivious to the world around them, and somehow they're visited by a genie, a magical being, an alien, whatever. We can figure that out. And they're brought to this library with the biographies from everyone on Earth. Um, so first thing they do is go to their own. So yeah, our character is starting to come off as kind of self-centered, which is fine because we need um, something for our character to go through in order to grow. Um, so they go through theirs. They find the footnote. Um, they notice the footnotes. they go to find this other person who they don't know, um, the other person's biography. And when they find the other person's biography, they find the whole chapter, and it's like you said. One day when they were on their way to work, they stopped by the same coffee shop, and the barista there was really into them, but our main character didn't notice. Now that our main character has this information, what do they do with it? Because we could turn it into a movie about the protagonist goes back to the coffee shop, but that person has quit working there, and they spend the entire movie trying to find the barista because the forwarding number that they left at the place wasn't right, so they have to go try to find something else and try and catch up with this person. And so, um, what if all the biographies are in a library in hell/heaven? You only get to read them after you die. So the problem with that, to me, is if our main character is dead, then what do they gain by learning a lesson? Actually, this might be more interesting if it was kind of inverted. If the person reading the biographies had a crush on someone else, and then they went to the other person's biography and found they were just a sentence. That would be kind of crushing. But I think maybe more interesting. Whether they say in heaven and hell is depending on finding this other person. I feel like this could go a lot. Yeah. Yeah, it definitely could go a lot of different ways. I do feel like kind of any direction we go with it kind of revolves around interpersonal relationships. Maybe we're getting lost in the sauce, astray in the hay. Yeah. Yeah, I think when we boil all of it down, it comes down to interpersonal relationships, how people see each other, and I don't know, maybe trying to teach people to be more present. Yeah, no, maybe. Meep. Bulleted list. I do that all the time. I hit my spacebar too early and fuck up words that way. Yeah, so all the versions of the story would revolve around interpersonal relationships and being able to see others as people. Yeah, because I feel like with whatever way we went with that, it would kind of all tie back into that. Okay, so that's all 6 of them. We've at least thought about them a bit, thought about what they could be, what themes they might explore, all of that stuff. So, let's go back over them, and then, I don't know, do we vote? Should we put up a poll? BRB, need to go take ham out of the freezer to do it. Yes, get the ham out of the freezer, make sure it defrosts, thaws. Wait till I get back. Okay. Alright, while Major is doing that, I am going to try to figure out... Oh my god, there's so much crap in here. Let's try to create a poll and see what happens. What could possibly go wrong? Alright. So our first one is... Don't look at the moon. Second one we got... Oh yeah, when you die you go into a cinema. Death cinema. Sorry, I find this amusing. Okay, yeah, we have Vidzi's Immortal Shapeshifter. Ancient language. Oh, do we only have 5 spaces? Yeah, we do. So, Biostar / biography. Okay. So we started a poll, put a timer on it, so Major has plenty of time to get back. Um, Pretty sure she... Okay, Major's back. So we have the poll up. Oh my god, wait. What am I waiting for now, Rad? Okay. I'm going to go through all these. I'm guessing that's going to take about as much time as we have for all this. And then we'll see where the votes are at the end. And go from there. Alright, so the first one is the Don't Look at the Moon. It's 3 a.m. An official phone alert wakes you up, says don't look at the moon. But you also have hundreds of notifications from random numbers saying it's beautiful, night to night, just look outside. This is kind of our sci-fi horror thriller. And we could get into themes of kind of peer pressure, of trying to get people to believe the same things as you, information bubbles, and how we share information, which I think is very relevant to today and kind of how the social media ecosystems work. Okay. Second one, when you die, you'd appear in a cinema with another number of other people who look like you. You find they are your previous reincarnations as soon as you all. Then you start watching your next life on the big screen. So this one parallels the parenting. As the people in the afterlife would try to communicate with the person alive to try to keep them from making the same mistakes they did. But they have to learn to let go. It's not their life, it's the person's living its life. So we kind of have those parallels to parenting in some ways. Next one we have Vidsy's immortal shapeshifter story. A woman has been dating guy after guy, but it never seems to work out. She's unaware that she's actually been dating the same guy over and over. A shapeshifter who's fallen for her and is certainly going to get it right this time. We have some kind of different stuff on this and decide to go kind of away from the initial writing prompt into more of a kind of historical romance in kind of how they might have met before and kind of throughout the ages. Yeah, we have a bunch of stuff written out for that. Yeah. Vidsy was on fire coming up with ideas for that. Then we have our whenever you speak, people hear you in their native language. Most people are surprised and delighted. The cashier at McDonald's you just talked to was horrified. Nobody's spoken that language in thousands of years. So we kind of modified this one too to be kind of a futuristic sci-fi Um, the person feels lost because they're not being able to speak every language isn't that unique because technology can kind of do that. Um, but they end up finding someone who, or being found by someone rather, who needs them in order to complete a job because they're some sort of bounty hunter. So we have kind of a space way to get into kind of more of a space adventure with this one. And then we had the two that we kind of went over earlier today with the great 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 grandfather buying a star and um, discovering a library with a biography for everyone on Earth. And look at that. Ended right when the poll ended. Alright. We got Immortal Shapeshifter. Dizzy will be happy. Let me... What's that? Okay. Do not look at the moon is basically Dragon Ball Z anyway. I will have to take your word on that. They all turn into big monkeys? Okay. Dragon Ball Z is not what I thought it was about. Alright. So, we got our writing prompt, we have some ideas for it. And next thing, we're going to start figuring out what this thing is actually going to look like. But first, I'm going to take a quick break, and as always, Major's in charge. Even when I am here, she's in charge, but, you know, especially when I'm not here. Looking at you, Rad. Rad's gonna BRB. Gotta figure out what he's having for dinner. Major Wage is in charge while he's gone. Okay. Glad we're on the same page. Alright. I just gotta get some more water. And then we will get back into it. Alright, yeah, we got a bunch of ideas and stuff that we kind of went over. Jill and I had to figure out dinner too. No worries, Major. Um, so we had some ideas and stuff that we kind of threw around last time. Um, but I'm not going to copy all of them over because I want to kind of start fresh with our notes. So this is the one that I was actually thinking the most about between last stream and this stream. And I have some ideas. Yeah. So first thing we need to figure out is kind of actually we need to do like 10 things at the same time. um, but I'm gonna try to go through them and make it as clear as possible. So um, if I can spell characters, C-H-A-R-A, there's this extra C in there. Our characters. So just from the premise, we know we're going to have Shapeshifter, the Witch, and then there was a third character I was contemplating while I was trying to figure out the antagonist of the story. Right, our shapeshifter is most likely going to be our protagonist. They're going to be the one we're following through the story. And so there's kind of two different, well, three different, but for this, most likely there's just going to be two different possibilities for our antagonist. One is the witch would be the antagonist. And not the antagonist in the sense of like they'd be Darth Vader, but more in the sense of if you think about a rom-com in terms of protagonist antagonist, it's generally the two people in the relationship fulfill those roles. One's trying to achieve a goal, the other is preventing them from achieving that goal. But they overcome that at the end. So if we're doing a kind of historical romance or romance over time, we could have the antagonist be the other person. That's one possibility. The other possibility is to have kind of a Darth Vader. Just a source of external antagonism that prevents our protagonist from achieving their goal. So my idea for this is I just, for now, going to call them the Hunters. So if we have witches who exist, and we've determined they have some amount of power, there, to me at least, logically would also be kind of an antagonistic society that would be going after them. So they would be witch hunters. I know there was a movie called The Witch Hunter. I didn't see it. It had Vin Diesel. Not my bag. But for this, having kind of a society of hunters who, whenever we catch up with our protagonists throughout history, there would be um, this group of hunters continuing to go after the witches, and they would continue to be a source of antagonism throughout the story. Kiddos decide on mac and cheese. I'll be back again. Just imagine I make the occasional comment about poop cubes. All right, Rad. I actually had buffalo mac and cheese last week. Mac and cheese is always delicious. I hope you enjoy. I hope the kiddos enjoy. We'll be waiting for your return from your poop cube throne. I don't know. Which is funnier, poop cube throne or poop cube igloo? All right. So I think our shapeshift, yeah, hard transition here. The kind of way that I see it is our shapeshifter is our protagonist. They're the one who we're going to follow through the story, who needs to be confronted with obstacles and complications, and they need to learn the lesson um, in order to achieve their goal. And then, well, I mean, there doesn't have to be only one antagonist. They can both be kind of places of antagonism. So, okay. And then, um, kind of trying to figure out who we want our shapeshifter to be. Um, for me, I think one thing we can do to kind of simplify a lot of this, rather than having, you know, a shapeshifter and having to explain how they became a shapeshifter and why and all of that stuff. If we're having the other character in our story be a witch, I think the shapeshifter is just a witch who decides to shapeshift. Because for me, that simplifies everything way down, and it's a lot less explanation if we just say, in kind of the opening scenario that I had imagined of having our protagonist and what do we want to call it? The person they want to be with are together at the beginning. Something happens, they're torn apart, and then the shapeshifter uses magic to change their face, and that's how they become kind of the shapeshifter, so to speak, rather than it being just like an ability they have, like Clayface, or like what's the one from the X-Men? Do they only change their face? So that's another thing I thought of. I think they should only change kind of, yeah, yeah. I mean, that's what we're here to try to figure these things out. So we have a clear idea when we start laying out our outline. We want to make sure we have a good grasp on who these characters are and some of the mechanics of how things in this universe work. Um, and the idea of this being a movie, right? If you're going to get someone to play the lead character in a movie, you don't want to have, 5 or 10 different people playing the same character. I imagine you would want to have kind of the same person, and then I think you just basically use CG to change different elements of their face. Yes, you do. Yes, we do what? You want 5 different versions of Henry Cavill. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm saying. That how do I say this? So as an example, let's say we have Henry Cavill playing this character. So when we originally meet them in the first timeline, it's just going to be Henry Cavill. I was going to say normal Henry Cavill, but that's kind of an oxymoron. You have Henry Cavill. And then basically whenever we meet him in different times throughout history, we would want in the production to use CG to, change what his nose looked like, change his cheekbones, his mouth shape, kind of just different stuff, but still have it based on Henry Cavill. So it looks different enough that someone passing them by wouldn't know it was him, but we, the audience, would. And one of the things we can do with this is Henry Cavill as Geralt, as Clark Kent, and the Cavalrine, and the guy from Mission Impossible. And when I was thinking about this, maybe the idea of shapeshifting isn't something that witches normally do in this universe, let's say. And so our protagonist doing this is kind of a drastic measure that they take because they're running away from the hunters. And whenever the hunters catch up to them, they have to change their face again. And then one of the things I think Vidsy brought up last time is when we get to kind of the climax of events for the story, the shapeshifter has kind of forgotten what they originally look like because they've had to change their face so many times and over so many years. Yeah. I don't know. Was I going somewhere? I don't know. I have lots of ideas. but having to actually say them out loud and explain them is not easy. Let's go back to the prompt again. I don't want to go back to the prompt again because I feel like the ideas we had were kind of getting away from the initial prompt enough that I want to kind of try to move forward as much as we can and not be constrained by what the prompt was. Okay. I'm just gonna write out a bunch of stuff that I have ideas of, and then we can talk through them, accept them, veto them, whatever. I'm actually gonna remove shapeshifter because we're just gonna go protagonist. So I'm going to say our protagonist is also a witch. First meet them in colonial America. But they've been alive and okay, they're a witch. First meet them in colonial America, but they have been alive much longer and came to America from Europe to escape persecution. So then while in colonial America, they meet the other witch and fall for them. And then from there we get kind of into our story. So, who do we want our protagonist to be? And this is where I get very annoying because everything we're going to ask, why do we want that? And we're going to have a reason for it. Let me fix that first. Okay. So let's start from the most broad and then come down to the most specific. So, do we want the protagonist to be male, female, and do we want, or other, and do we want the significant other, I don't know, we need a better term for the other witch. Do we want the other witch to be male, female, / other? Major, as you know, I tend to write WLW, so I lean towards them both being female. Strong female protagonist, always. Yes, strong female protagonist, but they have to be flawed because they need to grow. They need to have the ability to learn a lesson. And I feel like if we have them, I'm I'm okay with the shapeshifting witch being gender fluid as well. Yeah, that was the other thing I was cautious with when thinking about the character and whether we would have different actors portraying them. Because if we got actors of different races, different genders, whatever, we would, whether we like it or not, be commenting on that in some way. And so that's why another reason I think it's more streamlined and straightforward to just have it be the same actor playing the protagonist the whole way through. That is, unless we figure out a way in which, by doing that, we have something we want to say about it, not it happens to be something that's in the story. And that's the kind of stuff I mean when I say I'm going to get annoying because I'm going to ask why about everything. But I do feel off the bat having, yeah, love is love, baby. Having both of them be female would add an extra element of, if we have the hunters as the source of antagonism, then it also becomes a comment on othering in society and othering, queer people, which is something we are against. They're not others, they're just people. People are people. But that's one of the things I like about fantasy and sci-fi when they're done well, is they're able to talk about contemporary societal issues by using bigger ideas and broader ideas generally. Alright, so our protagonist is going to be female. So both of our main couple, if they're going to be immortal, they can be kind of any age we want. Google's how hard. Yeah, that was the other thing I was kind of thinking of. Um, I don't think she's the protagonist. I think she could be the other witch or someone else. I think she's 36, I think. $36. Boom. I was actually not certain on that. I knew it was around there. So should we just say for both of them mid-30s? Eh. But they are immortal. I don't think immortal is exactly the right word, because 30s is better, 20s are too messy, yeah. Yeah. Um, where was I going? Oh, yeah. So they're not technically immortal, because I, th- I think our witches can't or can decide kind of what age they don't want to age anymore, or when they don't want to age anymore. Um, but they can still die. Because that's going to be important part of the story. Because one of the things at the beginning that I think is the protagonist needs to think the other witch has been killed by the hunters. And that's part of why they run away. And when they see someone who looks just like them at some other point in history, they instantly are like, that's not them, but it looks just like them. Okay, I can see. Yeah. Okay, cool. Anytime I can explain something and Major's not confused, I'm happy. Um, and one of the things I talked about with the protagonist is their it's less questions down the line for me to write on your screen. Yes. Um, so the flaw for our protagonist is at the beginning they fail to act to save the other witch when the hunters initially come for her. Uh, this is what I meant by we're gonna have to do like 10 things at once. Colonial America. Um, let's see. Main couple is. If I can spell anything today. Couple is living in the witches. Okay. Um, Coward? Ace? Okay. Wasn't sure if it's ace or ice. Okay. Well, cowardice. Failure to act. When they're... No, I don't want that capitalized. Is endangered. Ugh. Man, I am struggling tonight. Mate, yeah, kind of whatever term. Um, so for the colonial America setting, should we have them live in a society of just witches, or have them just living among regular, normal, everyday people? Because there's kind of, if we have them in a society of witches, then the hunters come, probably burn down, destroy everything. They find the significant other, but not the protagonist. The protagonist, everything's destroyed. They run away, change their face. If they're just living in a society of normal people, then what do the normal people do? Do they try to protect the witches? Or do they just stand by and watch? I think they are poop cube gatherers. So they can make a poop cube throne. Yeah, I'm gonna change this. I think they live in a society of regular people. They protect the wombats. Are wombats native to America? Or did they bring them with them when they came to America? Yeah, I think they live in a society of regular people in colonial America, because then we have the comment of what regular people do when they see others persecuted. No, these are travel wombats. Okay. Alright. Wombats are girl, bats, man, woman, bat, wombat. Wombats are girl, bats, man, woman, bat, wombat. Batman? What the Yeah, yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking, Major. Um, okay. Now that we get, yeah. Uh, um, is there anywhere specifically in Europe that one of our main couple should come from that would tell us more specifically about them? Because admittedly, I do not know a lot of what was happening geopolitically when, um, in the times of kind of colonial America. Um, I know some stuff, but France is always good. Exactly. Yeah, French. Yeah. Yeah, I think they just kind of the immediate thought I have is like have one be from England, the other from France, or just any Belgian. They can make beer. Um, I yeah, I just want them to be from different places. And by coming to America, they're able to find each other. Waby the witch invented French toast, and it was so good they said it must be witchcraft. Uh, actually, I'm curious. When was French toast invented? No, one of the witches is named Waby. It's uh, French did not invent it. According to legend, it was a man named Joseph French. So it's like German chocolate. He created a dish in 1724 and advertised it as French toast because he was grammatically inept and forgot the apostrophe. uh, Korea collects recipes from the earliest century. French toast existed as early as the age of the Roman Empire. But the phrase French toast first appeared in print in the Encyclopedia of American Food and Drink in 1871. uh, yeah, I like French toast, so I'm cool with having it in here somewhere. Her side plot for the movie is getting revenge. Uh, BRB, need to get my chimichanga. You do that, Major. Sounds delicious. I love cheesecake. Major always has the best food. You want French toast now? Yeah. Oh, man, it's been a while since I had French toast. I like it, but I just don't have it very often. You're really bad at making it? Yeah, every recipe I see, like, it ends up becoming way too complicated because they're like, all right, you want to have the bread be a little bit stale, so you want to set it out for this amount of time beforehand. I'm like, this is getting way too complicated for French toast. Just tastes like egg bread. Yeah, you need to add like the vanilla and cinnamon, I want to say, and then make sure it doesn't get into the custard, and make sure it doesn't get um, too oversaturated. Well, actually, I might have that backwards. You want it to be saturated, but you don't want like excess of um, the custard on the outside, I think, because that might be causing it to taste like eggs too much. Okay. Getting way too distracted thinking about French toast now. Um, so one other thing I've thought about is with our witches, we need to set up how powerful they are and what they use their magic for. Because if in our possibly opening scene we have one of them getting snatched, being called a witch, and burnt at the stake, the obvious question is, if they're really a witch, why don't they just do witchcraft and get out of it? So we need to come up with some reason as to why they wouldn't or couldn't. One character invented French toast, but the other is from Belgian waffle royalty. Their love is forbidden. You should write that one, Rad. As an updated version of Romeo and Juliet. Two families alike in dignity, but I forget what the rest of it is. And something else we need to figure out. Hey, Major's back. Uh, you didn't miss much, just some French toast talk, and Rad's decided to write in the style of Romeo and Juliet, one character who invented French toast and the other from a Belgian waffle royalty. Call it breakfast for two. Look at that. Major knows what's up. You got a title now, Rad. I'll do a stream one day so we can brainstorm it. Alright. Okay, so if our witches are, we'll just say functionally immortal, we can choose when and where we want them to be kind of reunited at times throughout history, and why it doesn't work out in those times. One thing I want to avoid is just doing like, let's have them show up in the 50s because the 50s was super cool. Like, I want whenever we check back in with them, whatever era needs to reflect what we want to talk about with the story. Right, so setting the initial I love how 50 is talking to me like I'm a toddler, saying I'm going to be superhero slash astronaut in poop cubes. So we need to know which history. Not necessarily which history, but probably a bit of American history. So in setting kind of our initial sequence, whatever, in colonial America, it kind of reflects what people understand about colonial America, that the first people to come over here were escaping religious persecution, right? So they're escaping being persecuted and coming to a new world for a new start in life. So I feel like that's reflecting where our characters are in their lives. Which history? Rad. Should have known. Rad has made 31 dad jokes. Yeah. Yep. But does that make sense, Major? Because a lot of screenwriting, a lot of good screenwriting, I should say, is all about having everything you construct reflect back on the characters and the theme. So by having our characters be witches, that needs to reflect on the theme, and the theme needs to reflect on our characters and the setting and why we have them in certain places and when we have them showing up. And that's especially going to be true when we start figuring out um, more supporting characters, because we're eventually going to have them interacting with other people, and those other people are going to have to, when our protagonist meets someone new, that character needs to have a different perspective than the protagonist. And that different perspective is going to potentially change the protagonist in some way or not change them in some way. But there has to be a reason for everyone they meet, every setting we set them in, every situation we put them in. I don't know. I feel like I'm rambling, kind of. I might be. I have too much stuff in my head. Okay. Um, you ordered queso and cheesecake, and you have no lactate on it? Oh. It's gonna be a rough night in the Rude household. Rough night for chilling, that's for damn sure. uh, Stay safe, chillin'. He's gonna have to mark himself safe, like when an earthquake hits. Yeah. Ooh. Yeah, we've had a couple of smaller earthquakes out here somewhat recently, but I've just been lucky that we have not had anything significant. It is kind of funny when I get like an earthquake alert like half an hour after I feel it. Like, thanks for letting me know. Okay. I think we might be done for today. Wheels are spinning, but hamsters are asleep. But we figured out what story we're gonna write, and we started figuring out some more specific things. Poop cubes don't roll too well. Yeah, you're not wrong, Rad. So, yeah, some stuff we still need to fill in some stuff, but I feel like as we go, we'll start to figure out more about our characters and who they are. And we'll start to figure out more about what settings we need to put them in, kind of when we want them to show up again throughout history. And yeah, we'll just keep going and keep figuring stuff out as we go. So, yeah, that's what we got for today. And we'll be back. Let's see, we'll be back on Tuesday? Yeah. Tomorrow's holiday, so I'll be back on Tuesday at what time? 5 Pacific. And we'll pick it up then. And I don't know. We might start outlining some stuff, figuring out more about what we want our movie to be about. Yeah. Running into that wall again. So, yeah, I think that is a good place to end for today. Yeah, thank you all for being here. Major and Red, and I know Sage was here for a bit earlier. Yeah, I appreciate you all. The wall of poop cubes. Ew. That is not a wall I want to be running into. Hello, Major! Yeah, I appreciate you all. Thank you all for stopping by, hanging out. We'll be back Tuesday and doing some more writing, figuring stuff out and things. And yeah, that's all I got. I guess I should look and see if anyone else is streaming, if we can raid someone, or if I just want to end. Yeah, no one I follow is streaming right now, so unless anyone has any suggestions, we're just going to end it here. Raid Major Wager. Major is not streaming right now. If she were, I would know because I would be following her. I'm pretty sure I follow her already. Alright. Yeah, we're gonna end it here. Thank you again, everyone. And I will see y'all later. Bye!